Hello guys and welcome back. So now as you know that the knight can walk between these waypoints. Now in this video what we will do is whenever the knight sees the player, okay, then this knight will simply chase the player. So for that right here we will create another header by the name of knight AI, and then first of all we need a reference to our player game object. Okay, so let's name this reference as player body. Then after this we need a reference to the player layer. Okay, so we will say public layer mask and let's name this as player layer. Then we will create a float by the name of vision radius, and this will be the vision of the knight, okay, as you know by the name. Then we will create another float by the name of attack radius. This will be the attack radius of the knight AI. Then after this we will create a bool by the name of player in vision radius. So when the player when in the vision radius, then this will be set to true. Okay, for now let's just remove this attack radius because we are now just focusing on the chasing. Okay, so we just need these four things, that is it. Then right here in the start method we will say player body equals to game object dot find, and we want to find the player game object by the name, and as you know that we name our player in the hierarchy as player, as you can see right here, player. Okay, so what this will basically do is it will search in the hierarchy for the game object which will be by the name of player, and it will assign that player to this player body right here. If you don't want to do this, then you can just actually drag and drop the player game object into this reference as well, but we want to do that automatically, so right here this will basically do that. Okay, now after this right here in the update method what we will do, we will check for the player if the player is in the vision radius or not. So for example, if the vision radius is for example 10 or 15, then right here let me show this, that for example if this is the knight, okay, and we set the vision radius as 10, okay, so this red circle is the vision radius of this knight AI which is 10. Okay, then for example if our player is outside of this vision radius, okay, then this knight will just simply keep walking inside the waypoints. Okay, but if this player gets inside the vision radius of this knight AI, then what will happen is the knight will simply stop walking in the waypoints and the knight will simply run towards the player. Okay, so now what we need to do right here in order to create a sphere like this around the knight AI, okay, in order to do that we will first of all set the player in vision radius to physics dot check sphere. Okay, and this physics dot check sphere will actually create a check sphere around the knight AI. Okay, so as I told you, around the knight AI, so in order to create this sphere, or you can say this circle around the knight AI, for that we will simply use transform.position, since this knight AI script is on the knight game object. Okay, and then we need to provide a radius to this sphere, so the radius will be the vision radius. Okay, and then we will pass the player layer to it, so anything that is on the player layer will be get detected. Okay, then after this what we will do is when this player in vision radius is set to true, okay, this will simply check that if anything that is on the player layer gets inside the sphere, okay, then this will be set to true. So then what we will do that right here is that we will say that if this player in vision radius is false, okay, then the knight will simply walk. Okay, so we will call the walk method inside this if condition. Then after this we will say that if the player in vision radius gets true, okay, then what we will do, we want the knight to chase the player. So for that, let's create a method by the name of chase player. Okay, so let me now copy this, and after the walk method right here, let's create it chase player. Okay, and as you know that we pass this chase player right here when the player is in vision radius. Okay, so as I told you, we want the knight to follow the player. So for that we will say transform dot position plus equals to transform dot forward. We will multiply that by the current moving speed, and then we will multiply that by time dot delta time. So what this will do, this will basically move the knight AI towards the player, okay, or anything that is on the player layer. So as you know that the player is on the player layer, so it will basically run towards that. And also we want the knight to look at the player while running, or you can say while attacking. So for that we will say transform dot look at, and we want the knight to look towards the player body dot transform. And also whenever this chase player function is called, okay, then it means that the player will run towards the player, so we want the current moving speed to be equals to the running speed. Okay, so now if we save the script and get back to Unity, right here if we click on knight AI, now we need to provide the player body right here. So drag and drop the player body, then let's select the player layer as well, and right here let's set the vision radius as, for example, 10. Okay, as you can see the knight is really close to the player. Let me move the knight a little bit right there, for example. Let's move him to the ground like that. Okay, now let me click on the knight again and play the game. So as you can see the player is not in vision radius. Okay, so as you can see the knight is following the waypoints. As you can see the knight turned away from that position in the previous direction now. Okay, so now if we try to get closer to the knight, as you can see we are now in the vision radius and the knight is following the player, as you can see. Okay, so if you stop, as you can see the knight is hitting us. It is actually following us. Okay, so as you can see now when we get in the vision radius of the knight can follow us. For now, as you can see the knight was hitting us constantly. Okay, we don't want that, so we will be fixing this in the upcoming videos. Okay, for now, as you know that the knight chasing AI system is working perfectly fine.